After getting our session set up and all the routing done in the last episode, we are ready to start mixing. And I was thinking, how am I going to show you guys with YouTube? YouTube is stereo. How am I going to show you 5.1 stuff in stereo? And I think what I'm going to do is use a plugin called NX. It's by Waves. It's really affordable. You can do a head tracker that they have for it. I'm not going to use the head tracker, but what I am going to do is encode this 5.1 mix to where it won't be quite 5.1, but you can at least tell, that stuff is around you, and it gives you a little bit of the sense of it being in 5.1. And we'll be listening to that for the rest of this episode. Our goal with this mix is to help tell the story. And that's really been at the top of our list from the very beginning of the sound edit all the way through to delivering this. We're trying to help tell the story. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to start with, to me, the most important part, which is the dialogue. Now, before I get started on automating stuff and going through clip by clip, all of my tracks right now are set to read. So I'm going to change that. On my VCAs, I'm going to set them to touch. And on my unit tracks, every last one will be set to touch. I can't recommend having a control surface enough. It's really hard to do a mix without it. I'm using just a really affordable fader port 16. It's got 16 channels I can automate at once. To me, it doesn't really matter what controller you use, if it's some kind of Ethernet controller or USB or whatever you have to use. Just make sure you can use something to put your hands on faders and knobs and be able to tweak stuff in real time, and hopefully more than one, because doing it with one fader, it's really tough. I'm going to start with this voiceover here. Kind of opens the film up after the credits.
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take place at a bank. It was right here on Broome Street at a police station.
So you can hear all this stuff down here, all the way down to like 20 hertz. It's just massive amounts of breath pops, which I could have cut out. But for now, I'm just going to EQ it. Start with...
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take place at a bank. It was right here on Broome Street at a police station.
So a little too much honk at about 550. That's a sharper Q on this band and just a little bit of a cut. My window's getting real cluttered because I'm just recording one monitor for this. So I have that in preview. So I've previewed, I've got my settings for that. Now I'm going to do Option Command question mark. And what that'll do is that'll write those settings to that selection. So that's write to selection. And now if I take it out of preview, if I go back a little bit and play, you'll see the automation pickup.
One of the biggest heists in...
Now, one thing I forgot to do, got too excited to start this. I will most of the time start with a dialog predub, which means I don't really want to hear the music. I don't really want to hear the sound effects. I just want to focus on the dialogue stem. So I'm going to put these are my dialogue, music, and effects VCAs. So they're the big three, I call them. I'm going to mute the music and sound effects. I'm going to have this up just so I can keep an eye on my levels while I mix. In a calibrated room, you just mix to the level that you've calibrated to, and maybe not worry so much about every syllable being at a certain level. If you want to keep it up when you're opening and closing other plugins, click the target button, turn that off, and that'll make it so this window stays open. So order of operations, I'll select for time what I want to preview in preview mode, get my settings, Shift Option question mark to write to the selection that writes the settings to the time selection I have, and then I'll go through and automate either volume or any other settings that I need to do. So you kind of get a baseline setting, and then you go through and do a volume pass, which I'll do right now. Notice how most people, when they start a sentence, are very loud, and then as they get towards the end of the sentence, the volume falls off. So the biggest thing I'm going to be doing is correcting for that to get it a little more even.
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take place at a bank. It was right here on Broome Street at a police station. Bricks of pure heroin, a street value of more than 70 million, were slowly sifted from the evidence room of this once prominent precinct.
And this one I've got to go back and redo.
Million were slowly sifted from the evidence room of this once prominent precinct. The heroin first arrived in New York via France. It wasn't discovered until a dirty cop had second thoughts and busted the operation. That cop was later killed by one of the 5 families. Secretly recorded conversations brought down the mob. To this day, the whereabouts of the heroin are unknown.
There's a little bit of hum in here. If I really wanted to completely nuke that, I would probably grab AbsentiaDX. It's made by Todd.io. It's really nice for getting out hums. It's really the best option I've found for those tonal hums, whether they're just one note or they have harmonics. It's able to dig them out in most cases without giving you comb filtering, which if I did, I'll just show you what I would do to get it out with EQ. So go in preview, bring up my EQ here. And I can either listen to it or I can look at the waveform and see it's right down here, right at about 120. Now, if you make the Q super sharp, as sharp it'll go, and boost the crap out of it, it starts to sing right there. Ooh. Then, just take that gain, get it all the way out. So I could do that, and I do that sometimes if it's an easy hum. There's also a pretty sharp bit of noise up here. Let's make that into a bell. Cue it up. And unfortunately, a lot of people can't hear that high, so these are easy to miss. So we've got that. That must be an HMI or something. And what's great about ProQ is it'll show you the before and after on what you're doing. So those settings are fine to get rid of the hum. And I could highlight it, Option Command, question mark to write to the selection, jump out of preview mode. This scene has 2 labs. There's no boom, probably because of the Steadicam in the lighting. They couldn't get a boom in there, which sucks. You don't have that natural presence and air of the room, but we've got to make the best of it that we can. So what I'm going to do,
Oh, Polizio, what are you doing?
I'm going to do the exact same thing, just solo it.
Oh, Polizio, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower buds in the evidence room.
So we're listening to
Oh, Polizio, what are you doing?
John's mic there.
Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower buds in the evidence room.
Usually with labs, there's some mid stuff that's not very good.
Oh, Polizio, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower buds in the evidence room. This case is wide open.
Yeah, I thought that was cornstarch.
And you don't have to cut much. I'm only, well, that one I'm cutting
Polizio, what are
like
you
6 dB.
Forensics has said that this
Might be a
whole
little
thing
too
ended
much.
in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower buds in the evidence room. This case is wide open.
Yeah, I thought that was cornstarch.
Got to be careful with boosting the highs because there's some clothing noise on there that wasn't able to be cleaned out.
Oh, Polizio, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing
And
ended in
then
a blood.
when people have mics on their chest, it picks up a ton of chest resonance.
Oh, Polizio, what are you doing? Forensics
just
has
a
said that this
little-
whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red
Sometimes I'll also take the high pass and just crank it down a little bit to give it a little more
Cornstarch.
of a subtle roll off.
Hey, you know this thing feels like it's. Oh, Polizio, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this
I'm gonna
whole
say
thing
that's
ended
pretty
in a
good.
bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found
One
red
thing you can
flower
do with that just slight clothing noise that's there, and Cedar's really good at this. Let's see if Isotope will do it for us. Is just reduce the high frequency stuff.
Oh, Polizio, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower buds in the evidence.
And one thing I'll do with this in particular, RX, is a little bit of makeup gain, because it's very easy to fall into the trap of it brings the whole signal down so you think it's less noisy. So you have to use a little bit of makeup gain to make sure you're not just hearing the whole thing quieter and like, oh yeah, that's way cleaner, when it's not.
Oh, Polizio, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower buds in the
All right,
evidence
I'm gonna
room.
write
This
that
case is wide
for
open.
him. And now I'm gonna go to
That was
her track
cornstarch.
by hitting
Hey, you know, this
colon,
feels like it's still got shells in it.
Shift S
Yeah,
to
forensics
solo.
gonna come pick that up. What the hell are you
So
wearing?
she's pretty boomy. I'll use that low shelf to take out some of that. The other thing is I can hear
Where?
that 120 on hers.
Tampa.
Florida. Nice.
So hear how it's starting to ring like a tom, like a floor tom? That's how you know you got it. Just bring that
Those
down.
street boys are gonna get what they deserve.
And you can start to hear a little comb filtering with that.
I don't understand is where's Alec? Where's Alec?
So if you cut it a little bit less,
Why
you'll get back.
did Eddie give himself up?
Package.
Oh, thanks.
She's got a little
This
bit of
case
that
is
bite.
wide open.
I don't really want to.
That was cornstarch. Hey, you know, this thing-
Okay, so I'm just gonna write that.
Yeah, forensics gonna come pick that up.
She doesn't have any clothing noise or not anything that's really noticeable, so I'm not going to use any noise reduction on her. That also helps because if you have one track that you're not doing any noise reduction on, you can kind of hide the other track in it because you've got a little bit of that ambient noise that you can tuck things into. And then, so what I'll do for each scene is I'll go track by track. I didn't have any tracks on dialogue 1, 2, 3, or 4. I have the lavs down here. So I'm just going top to bottom. If I had a scene that took up, all 8 of these tracks, I would start with 1, write the settings to that whole track, go do the same thing for 2, similar to how I did the dialogue edit where it's checkerboard. And that's why having a good dialogue edit is really crucial because it helps you mix a lot faster. So the next thing we've got is, there's the end of the scene, right? But we've got homeboy that comes in and says,
Pavlizia, package.
and that's really distorted. He's mic'd up probably in his tie. It's probably a tie knot or something that's right around his neck. So it's real throaty, real crunchy and distorted. Not a great sound. So let's first fix just the EQ on it.
Pavlizia, package.
So you can hear the mid-range on it
Pavlizia,
down here is just
Package.
nuts.
Pavlizia, package.
So boost it till it sounds horrible
Pavlizia, package.
right there, right? And then
Pavlizia, package.
duck it down. It's a little too boomy.
Pavlizia, package. Pavlizia, package. Pavlizia, package.
I'm going to give him a little juice up top.
Pavlizia, package.
I also need to notch out that.
Pavlizia,
Let's see if it's at the same
Package.
frequency for him. The other ones were, I think,
Pavlizia,
17.9.
Pavlizia,
That's
package.
right about where it is for him.
Pavlizia, package. Pavlizia, package. Pavlizia, package.
I think, so I just did Alt
Package.
Command question mark to write to that.
Pavlizia,
I think I'm going to take his knocks away just because you can really hear the distortion on there. And I'll just use Foley or sound effects for that.
Pavlizia, package.
The other thing is he is pretty on mic because, it's his lavalier mic. So let's add some reverb. Now for reverb, when I first started mixing, I would do reverb for the whole scene and, go scene by scene and automate everything per scene. But now I kind of just do it based on when I need it. If I don't need it all the time. I don't always need to run the Foley through reverb. I don't always need to run. It's just to taste. It's kind of like salt and pepper. Sometimes you don't need to add salt and pepper to your food. And we'll do live room 1. The other thing I need to do is on balance. Let's start with just keeping in the center. So front reverb is all the way down and rear early and reverb is all the way down. And Alt Command, same deal. Alt Command question mark to write to the selection. And I'll even save these settings for this. We'll just call this cop room. Let's put it with the show name so I remember. So now if I go down here to his track. With a control surface, it's nice and easy because I want that to go to dialog verb 1. So if I hit sends on my control surface, and then I can select send A, and then just so you can check it out.
Valencia, package.
So I brought it up when he's further off camera and then back down as he gets closer. I've got my EQ set. I've got a little send action set up for this off camera line, and I'm ready to go back and do a quick volume pass.
Oh, Polizia, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower bugs in the evidence room. This case is wide open.
You know, I thought that was cornstarch. Hey, you know, this thing feels like it's still got shells in it.
Yeah, forensics gonna come pick that up. What the hell are you wearing?
Oh, just trying out some wardrobe, see if it still fits. I'm going on vacation, baby.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Where?
I'm gonna go see my mother.
Where?
Tampa.
Florida. Nice.
Oh, look. Hey, poor Eddie. Jackass.
Broom Street boys are gonna get what they deserve. What I don't understand is where's Alec? Where's Alec? And why did Eddie give himself up?
Valencia, package.
Oh, thanks.
So here I've got his off mic line, a little too loud. Fix that.
Self up.
Valencia, package.
Oh, thanks.
One more time.
Himself up.
Valencia, package.
Oh, thanks.
Getting packages. Hey, listen, you want a cup of coffee before I take off? I'll get it.
Sure.
You got it.
Thanks. Partner.
There's a little dolly noise in there that I didn't edit out. Idiot. Let's do the music. The reason I do the music after the dialogue is it's the second most important thing for most films. And I'll do a similar thing with these before I touch a fader. Let me grab this and go into preview mode, and I'll just go track by track, stem by stem. If you just have a stereo mix or a 5.1 mix, you don't have to worry about stems, but I got stems. So that's a piano just hanging out there on that one note. To get stereo music tracks into a 5.1 format, you can use an up mixer, but the cool thing about having stereo stems is you can pan them discreetly, so you don't really need to up mix them. You can just bring them back into the room, you can toe them in a little bit. For this, what I'm gonna do, I'll just show you, even though, we're listening through Waves NX, it's not as severe as if you were in a 5.1 room, you'd hear it all the way to the back. I'm just gonna bring this back a little bit. Right to selection. Looks like there's nothing on this stem, so Composer messed that up. Got a little low arp bass. It's not super wide, so for this one, I'll actually toe it in a little bit, just so it gets to the center channel a tiny bit. And make sure there's nothing afterwards. MX5, we've got stringy stuff here. This I'll bring back just a little bit into the room, toe it in a teeny tiny bit. Right to selection. As far as EQ, this is a little too boomy for me. I don't want it just killing all my headroom. This one too. That's pretty far down there. Actually, that's kind of nice. Okay. Let's see, what do we got? MX6, there's nothing. What are these? Big boom hits. These might be kind of nice if they were a little more spread back. And I'm going to toe them in a tiny bit just so that a little bit goes to the center channel. I don't think I need to EQ these. I'm cool with those being subsonic. So that's like an analog Blade Runner-y synth. I might keep that just up in the front left and right channels. EQ sounds fine on that. That's kind of cool. That one I think I'll bring back a little bit. And I'm also going to verb that out pretty severely. So that's going to MX verb 1, which I've got up here. Need to make that touch. And I think I've got a preset for money verb. Option command right to selection. Okay, so we got that. Cool. Little detune. That I'd like to be pretty I might even bring that back here. And I'll probably automate that with each one of those pulses. And then this, I think I'll just leave it up front, wide stereo. I don't think I need to EQ it. Okay. Oh, I didn't write to the whole thing. So my settings are all set for this. And now let's take these faders for a ride.
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take place at a bank. It was right here on Broome Street at a police station. Bricks of pure heroin, a street value of more than 70 million, were slowly sifted from the evidence room of this once prominent precinct. The heroin first arrived in New York via France. It wasn't discovered until a dirty cop had second thoughts and busted the operation. That cop was later killed by one of the 5 families. Secretly recorded conversations brought down the mob. To this day, the whereabouts of the heroin are unknown.
So, Polizia, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower bugs in the evidence room. This case is wide open.
I don't have any LFE send set up, so I'm going to do that for the music real quick. This needs to be an aux input. And I need to add it to my IO. I'll do the same for sound effects. Really should have covered this in the session setup. 2 mono LFE. And we'll call this one sound effects LFE. And this one music LFE. And the other thing we need to do is on our music submaster, we've got a 5.0 sub that we're using for the verb. So I'll just make a mono music LFE submaster. This will feed the main submaster, but it's just a mono LFE channel. And I'll do the same for the sound effects. Okay. Awesome. So now I can hook all these up. So solo safe, we'll call this MX LFE. Input will be music LFE right there. Output will be MX LFE 1. For plugin, we'll use the Pro Subharmonic. The other thing that's important to do is to filter your LFE. I'll put this around 85 Hertz, so it'll roll off anything. That way, if you send stuff to it, it ends up being full range. It's not going to get through, because sometimes if you have a full range LFE on your deliverables, they will flag it. And then the other thing I need to do, Shift, Alt, click, and send this to music LFE. Default to infinity. So just for these hits, I'm not going to send the bass to it. I just want these hits to get a little rumbling in the tumbling. And if I solo them, you should see that's too much. Gain staging is pretty important with this stuff. So I guess I'll bring that down. I don't have this auto enabled, so I can change these without it messing anything up. That's fine. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to go about writing the second part of this cue.
Where?
Tampa.
Florida. Nice.
Oh, look. Hey, poor Eddie. Jackass.
And I need to bring this pad in a little more gracefully.
Tampa.
Florida. Nice.
Oh, look. Hey, poor Eddie. Jackass.
Broom Street boys are gonna get what they deserve. What I don't understand is where's Alec? Where's Alec? And why did Eddie give himself up?
Valencia. Package.
Oh, thanks.
Huh. Getting packages. Hey, listen, you want a cup of coffee before I take off? I'll get it.
Sure.
You got it.
Thanks. Partner.
I'm gonna bring these pianos down a bit.
Where's Alec? Where's Alec? And why did Eddie give himself up?
Valencia. Package.
Oh, thanks.
Huh. Getting packages. Hey, listen, you want a cup of coffee before I take off? I'll get it.
Sure.
You got it.
Thanks. Partner.
All right, it's a little more subtle that way. I think what I'll do for these cool pitch benders at the beginning, I'll leave them subtle there, but these ones I want to highlight a little more with some crazy panning. So I'm going to take this link off here and grab them like that. So all the way right front, all the way right back. Now I'm going to put the link back on. I am turning off volume. I like the level there. I just want to do this for panning. So I'm still in preview, Option Command, question mark, right. So I've written this panning to this selection here. And now I'm going to automate this with the pan pucks.
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take place at a bank. It was right here on Broom Street at a police station. Bricks of pure heroin, a street value of more than 70 million, were slowly sifted from the evidence room of this once prominent precinct. The heroin first arrived in New York via France. It wasn't discovered until a dirty cop had second thoughts and busted the operation. That cop was later killed by one of the 5 families. Secretly recorded conversations brought down the mob. To this day, the whereabouts of the heroin are unknown.
So, Polizia, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
It's important to spend time doing cool stuff for the beginning of the film, and then any of the what I'd call tentpole scenes like car chases or action sequences to make them extra special. If you don't have the time to do, super detailed work on every single scene, then just make sure the scenes that really need it, you have time for, so you're not just kind of half-assing your way through. So I'm going to say that's pretty good on music. I'll probably do a global, ride the whole thing down, but I've got the stems balanced the way I like them. Now, because remember I've got my memory locations here, let me do the backgrounds next. And we've got a couple perspective cuts here, but the main thing is this room they're in. Let's go track by track. That's just some really subtle traffic. That's probably fine. That's kind of nice. Some distant voices there. I do think I'm going to bring up... I think I'll bring that guy up a bit. And then the mono one up a bit. Sometimes what I'll do, if I don't want to go through each track, I'll solo them all. and just start bringing faders up until it sounds right. I'm gonna pan this guy back into the room a bit. Doesn't have to be super wide, just something. And EQ wise, this one has some pretty rumbly stuff. I don't know if I want that. Backgrounds also, you can get away with pretty steep low passes on them. Really helps bring focus to the dialogue if you do that. So I think I'll do that for some of these. This one's got some hiss to it. I'm just gonna do Alt Command right to selection. I'll actually bring it out a little bit before and after the cut.
Valencia.
Now I almost forgot, we've got all this stuff here too. So let me hit these real quick. I'm doing the same deal, I'm just getting a quick balance on them. That'll be cool. That's gonna need some pretty heavy verb on it. What about this stuff up here? This one I'll go ahead and take it out of preview and just write this one real quick. So it should be like she's walking past it. And which one did we need? We need reverb for this. Maybe that. This typewriter. We'll do the other side. On these stereo tracks, you don't always have to pan both sides. Sometimes it's kind of nice to leave one anchored in a channel just so it's not so discrete.
This one.
And let's set up some office verb just for this first little bit here. And I haven't touched this. I'm going to do this on verb 2 because this won't be like a whole scene type deal. It's just going to be kind of a special spot. So let's go here. That's better. Okay, and do the same with this. We want it to get close and then get really far away. Probably need to mix this so it actually does that too. There we go. Subtle, subtle. And this was the main reason I wanted this, so that phone ring wasn't so clean. So I'm just rolling off some of the highs. I think I'll pan this with the camera. It's probably fine. Now I can take these for a quick ride.
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take place at a bank. It was right here on Broome Street at a police station. Bricks of pure heroin, a street value of more than 70 million, were slowly sifted from the evidence room of this once prominent precinct. The heroin first arrived in New York via France. It wasn't discovered until...
And shoot, I blew into this automation here. I need to edit that real quick.
Precinct. The heroin first arrived in New York via France. It wasn't discovered until a dirty cop had second thoughts and busted the operation. That cop was later killed by one of the 5 families. Secretly recorded conversations brought down the mob. To this day, the whereabouts of the heroin are unknown.
Felicia, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower bugs in the evidence room. This case is wide open.
You know, I thought that was cornstarch. Hey, you know, this thing feels like it still got shells in it.
Yeah, forensics gonna come pick that up. What the hell are you wearing?
Oh. Just trying out some wardrobe, see if it still fits. I'm going on vacation, baby.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Where?
I'm gonna go see my mother.
Where?
Tampa.
Florida. Nice.
Hey.
There's some backgrounds cut here for this shot. They're actually not straight checkerboarded. These continue underneath because the dialogue does. So I'm just trying to bring those up as I catch them.
I don't understand is where's Alec? Where's Alec? And why did Eddie give himself up?
Valencia. Package.
Oh, thanks.
Huh. Getting packages. Hey, listen, you want a cup of coffee before I take off? I'll get it.
Sure.
You got it.
Thanks. Partner.
What I was trying to do with my volume pass is just ride things up, you know, kind of after the music ended, keep it low while the music was really pumping so that it kept some clarity to that and didn't muddy it up. And then, you know, just pop things up and down a little bit just to give it a little bit of motion so that it didn't feel totally static. Let's see. So I'm going to say that's good for backgrounds. Now let's go to our Foley, which is all also flat. And I have to remember I need to go back to my VCAs and let's bring the Foley back. We can really bring the effects back too because there's no effects here. So back to Foley with our memory locations. Let me remember where this started. Back here. Okay. Now I'm going to listen to this Foley and just see. So that could definitely use. This is why having two verbs is nice, because I can process things different, bounce back and forth. Sometimes I'll end up with more than two, but it just depends. I think for this, that hallway setting will probably work. I definitely want to, I think I'll bring the front down. I'm still going to keep a little bit of that and bring the rear all the way down. And then I might bring the early reflections down. Oh, that's why. That's better. Let me just save this as a setting then. I'm going to go here, edit, copy all automation. And then I could write it down for the whole track, but I might want to automate this verb a little bit more. Let me just find right here. This is one place where having your backgrounds up can help because you can highlight exactly where you want the automation to happen. And do Option Command V. That copies my settings there. And I think we come back here one more time. Right there, I just need it for this, same deal. Option Command V. And let's take that out of preview. Make sure everything's jumping the way it's supposed to, yep. And then I will pop the reverb up. Maybe we don't need the reverb on the props. Sometimes I've found that, you know, just the footsteps works fine. Gives you a little more perspective. Okay, so let's listen to these footsteps. Those already have really good perspective shifts. I don't really even need to EQ those. That's fine. Sounds about right. Might be a little bright. So I'm just going to knock down some of those highs. I'll change this to 6. Sometimes a high shelf works. Sometimes a really gentle low pass works. But I like that. I'm going to copy. So Shift Command C, and I'm going to Shift Command V to copy the settings to my, because they split it off here for this bigger stuff. And then same deal. I forgot to write to selection on this one. Option Command question mark. And let's see, take it out of preview. I think the rest of this stuff probably fine with just volume. So top of the scene, and we'll check it out.
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take place at a bank. It was right here on Broome Street at a police station. Bricks of pure heroin, a street value of more than 70 million, were slowly sifted from the evidence room of this once prominent precinct.
Man, it is really hard to catch stuff with this big ass video window right there.
Slowly sifted from the evidence room of this once prominent precinct. The heroin first arrived in New York via France. It wasn't
And this, you notice I brought the wood steps down just because they're so much louder.
this once prominent precinct. The heroin first arrived in New York via France. It wasn't discovered until a dirty cop had second thoughts and busted the operation. That cop was later killed by one of the 5 families. Secretly recorded conversations brought down the mob. To this day, the whereabouts of the heroin are unknown.
So, Polizia, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower bugs in the evidence room. This case is wide open.
Alright, that gun's too loud.
This is wide open.
I thought that was cornstarch. Hey, you know, this thing feels like it still got shells in it.
Yeah, forensics gonna come pick that up. What the hell are you wearing?
Oh,
And that set down's too loud.
What the hell are you wearing?
oh. Just trying out some wardrobe, see if it still fits. I'm going on vacation, baby.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Where?
I'm gonna go see my mother.
Where?
Tampa.
Florida. Nice.
Tampa.
Florida. Nice.
Hey, poor Eddie.
And that's too loud.
Nice.
Hey, poor Eddie.
Need a little more on just the grab.
Hey, poor Eddie.
Nope.
Hey, poor Eddie. Jackass.
Broome Street boys are gonna get what they deserve.
That one's just a tiny bit
Jackass.
Broome Street boys are gonna get
too
what
loud.
they deserve.
Better.
What I don't understand is where's Alec? Where's Alec? And why did Eddie give himself up?
Polizia. Package.
Oh, thanks.
Huh. Getting packages. Hey, listen, you want a cup?
Alright, I need to get this guy off screen a little sooner.
Oh, thanks.
His footsteps.
Huh.
So I just
Packages.
fade him down.
Hey, listen, you want a cup of coffee before I take off? I'll get it.
Sure.
You got it.
Thanks. Partner.
And they gave me a nice super loud set down here, which we don't need it.
Thanks.
Or at least we don't need it to be that loud.
Thanks. Partner.
Okay. Now, I didn't have enough fingers to grab the cloth track. I'll go back and do that too. It does help when there's ADR, but you don't need to have cloth all the time. I'll still keep it in just because it makes it a little bit easier for the M&E, but I'll just give a quick ride on this. Even though the beginning of this scene is louder than, you know, once it settles into the dialogue, As a mixer, you have some leeway with dynamic range. You don't want it to be so much that people are just turning the volume down when things get loud. But a little bit of variation between quieter scenes and louder scenes is totally fine. Just don't go balls to the wall, making people reach for that remote. And worse yet, you don't want to be the mixer that does the cop out like, well, you just need a better sound system to enjoy this at, 110 decibels. If it's mixed well, the person shouldn't be reaching for that volume to turn it up or down. They should be able to hear every line of dialogue, and it shouldn't, kill them when there's an action scene. But having a little bit of variation is totally fine. Let's just go back to this is our all memory location, just to see what we've done. So we've predubbed the dialogue, we've predubbed the music, we've predubbed the Foley. There's not really any sound effects. Ah, there is a sound effect. There's an elevator ding.
One of the biggest heists.
Nice. I didn't even catch that. So I'm just going to toe this in a little bit.
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take place at a bank. It was right here on Broome Street at a...
And what towing it in does... See, I've brought it in. It's still a little bit stereo, but it's pretty heavily weighted towards the center channel. It helps bring focus to sounds, and especially in a theater or a big room, you don't have as much of that steering effect where if you're on the right side, it sounds like just coming out of the right speaker. So most of the time, sounds that are motivated by something on screen, I will just bring that in to make it a little more mono, unless it's like a really big sound like an explosion or a heavy door slam where it has some stereo and mono elements, then I'll let those be wide. But it's kind of nice to have a stereo effect, because if this was just a mono sound, all I'd have is the center percentage, which just takes a mono sound and spreads it between the left and right speakers. It's not true stereo. The great thing about this building is I don't have to touch it. It's at the right level.
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take...
Pretty good. So we are predubbed for this scene, and what's great now is after we've got each element mixed, to itself and to each other, it is so easy with these VCAs to go in and rebalance. Maybe the music is a little too hot at the beginning, so, with the VCAs, that's one fader to grab. But I've already done all the balance work down here to get the stems, weaved in and out through how I want it to. But having the VCAs up here makes it to where global shifts or rebalances are a lot easier than grabbing 10 tracks at a time. So what I'd like to do before signing off on this video is do a quick kind of global balance with the VCAs, and then I'm also going to bring up the 5.1 print master aux so you can kind of see where the, what's kicking in what channel. And I'll leave this guy up too, so we can see the level.
One of the biggest heists in U.S. history didn't take place at a bank. It was right here on Broome Street at a police station. Bricks of pure heroin, a street value of more than 70 million, were slowly sifted from the evidence room of this once prominent precinct. The heroin first arrived in New York via France. It wasn't discovered until a dirty cop had second thoughts and busted the operation. That cop was later killed by one of the 5 families. Secretly recorded conversations brought down the mob. To this day, the whereabouts of the heroin are unknown.
So, Polizia, what are you doing? Forensics has said that this whole thing ended in a bloodbath. Case is closed.
They found red flower bugs in the evidence room. This case is wide open.
I thought that was cornstarch. Hey, this thing feels like it still got shells in it.
Yeah, forensics gonna come pick that up. What the hell are you wearing?
Oh. Just trying out some wardrobe, see if it still fits. I'm going on vacation, baby.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Where?
I'm gonna go see my mother.
Where?
Tampa.
Florida. Nice.
Oh. Hey, poor Eddie. Jackass.
Broome Street boys are gonna get what they deserve. What I don't understand is where's Alec? Where's Alec? And Why did Eddie give himself up?
Publicia, package.
Oh, thanks.
Oh. Getting packages. Hey, listen, you want a cup of coffee before I take off? I'll get it.
Sure.
You got it.
Thanks, partner.
So I was writing the dialogue up quite a bit. I just felt like after the VO, that scene dropped a little too much. And it's really easy to do that with this VCA. I was bringing it up about 4 or 5 dB. So the cool thing is our integrated levels, even with that bump in music at the beginning and the sub hit and all that stuff, the VO, it's within a dB of -24. So it should be good for like a TV spec or Amazon. And you could see, I wasn't watching the meters too much, but the music is nice and full in the surrounds.
Dirty cop had second thoughts and busted the operation.
There's no LFE except for those sub hits. I really don't like sending the music just to the LFE just because it's not a subwoofer. We're not mixing 808s and heartbreak. That LFE channel is a low frequency effects channel. It's not a subwoofer to just pump everything through. So I really like to use it for special things, with a little bit of purpose instead of just, I'll just route everything there and call it a day. So those sub hits were going there. There's no sound effects going there yet. We'll get to that with some other stuff. And let's just check in a spot with hardly any music to make sure.
Where's Alec?
I'm going on vacation.
So there's a little bit,
Oh, yeah?
tiny
Where?
bit in the surrounds, just some
I'm gonna
backgrounds.
go see my mother.
And that's fine. You don't always have to use the surrounds either. You don't always have to use the left and right channels. You can go Woody Allen and, mono everything if you wanted to, if it creatively made sense. For most films, you'll have some backgrounds in the surrounds and you'll have the music in the surrounds. And then things like bullet whiz-bys or other special sounds are great to throw around back there and bounce around. It's great to use the surrounds as a way to put people in the environment, but you don't always have to do that. And sometimes it's distracting. So sometimes less is more with that. All right, I think that's all I want to cover for this episode. I know this scene isn't the most exciting scene, but there's a ton of content out there that's just like this, where it's not Marvel's tentpole blockbuster film that you're probably never going to be mixing. It's these smaller indie films and dramas that you've actually got a shot at making some money on, and there's a ton of this content out there. So if I've helped you learn a little bit about mixing with this video, or if you're a sound editor and you don't know what happens to your tracks when they go to the mix, or any other kind of filmmaker, just to see the process of mixing, I think it's worth my time. And I think on the next video I will pick a scene with a little more meat on the bone so we can really get into the more action oriented parts of mixing. But dialogue, music, and Foley and backgrounds, like that's your bread and butter. Tons of scenes like that and all kinds of different projects, so it's really good to know how to mix them. So thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next video.